Welcome back to the Loan Officer Success Partner. This is a spotlight, and we've got a legend in the building today. You know, we always like to bring great people on here and empower you loan officers out there on, the tech tools, techniques, the success things that you can do and bring into your business, implement right away, and start building your empire. And today, we've got somebody who's built his own empire, one heck of a nice guy, one just fantastic looking guy, who's built this amazing machine, and I can't wait to talk about it. Derrick Doss, mloflo. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Devin. Really appreciate you having me here today, man. Means a lot.
Oh man, super excited to have you here. You know, we got to talking on a call a couple weeks ago, and it was just like, man, we got to do some air together. You know, at the end of the day, I want to get your product out there. I think a lot of people already know who you are and what you do, but for those of you that have been hiding under a rock for the last couple of years, Derrick has built an amazing platform that really can help you drive your business to success, and it's more than just a CRM, and that's part of what we're here to talk about today. But one thing that you guys know I like to do is I also like to get a little of a history lesson, learn a little bit about Derrick and where you came from and how you got to building these great tools. So what part of the country are you hailing out of?
Yeah, so I'm out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
There it is, man. Yep. So, and here in Dallas, I think we're going to get up to 70s today. We've been in the 40s and 50s. What are you guys doing down there in Fort Lauderdale?
We actually had a cold front that came through last night. So it's about 76.
We're on the same playing field. I like it. So good stuff, man. So, but normally, weather in Fort Lauderdale is just absolutely gorgeous. So you're down there in one of the most beautiful places on earth. So good stuff.
I'll definitely be doing some golfing this weekend with this weather.
There it is. So, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, you from there originally?
I am actually born and raised. Mom's born and raised in Miami. And my father's actually from Missouri, which my team is very aware of because I like to use the terms, don't tell me, show me, from the show me state.
Show me state. I'm a Kansas kid. My whole life. Yeah, I'm a Kansas kid, so I'm very aware of the show me state. Oh, yeah. We saw it on the license plates when you guys ran into our state from time to time. So good stuff, 100%. Man. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So, so born and raised, how'd you get in the mortgage space? How'd you get over here?
So I actually fell into the mortgage space. I was consulting for a firm. They had lost a large client and did them a favor to kind of help rebrand their company and to help them get back into the space and backfill that clientele that they lost. And while doing that, one of the clientele that I brought on was in technology. And I helped them actually brand and build out a sales force around that technology and just connected with them, got along really, really well, did really well on helping them grow that other technology business.
Right.
And in doing so, ended up connecting with my other partner in the previous venture out of New York. And he had been in the mortgage business for about 25 years.
Gotcha.
And then we all kind of connected together to build that venture in the mortgage space. So that was the first time I'd really gotten in the mortgage space, and that was, back in around 2015, 2016.
Well, and you guys built a tool back then, too, if I remember, in the green room you were talking about this, that ended up not even going to the mortgage side of the business. I think it went to the real estate side of the business. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it stayed in the mortgage side of the business, but it was a company called Wemlo, WEMLO, and we were an outsourced processing company with software. So we built a loan operating system, or an LOS, as it's better known, and ended up, after about 15 months, getting acquired by Remax, which is also Motto Mortgage, a subsidiary of Remax. So we were kind of a perfect fit in between them. Great for technology, and then also, the processing side of it. So very, very blessed and lucky to come across Remax in that venture.
Well, so what you're saying is that you built a product that was so good, the realtor said, man, we need this for the mortgage company that we serve, right? And they just bought the darn thing.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. And, the Motto side of the business, they were building out, these mortgage businesses, from the Remax offices. It was just, natural progression. And the challenge in that is they didn't know how to process, right? Which most loan officers don't. So we were kind of that perfect fit in between those Mottos and the Remax ventures. So we fit kind of right in between there, and we were a perfect bridge for both those businesses.
That's killer, man. Well, and that goes back to talk about it's more than a CRM, right? It's truly a workflow. It's a process flow, and it's a way to organize your business, from the start to the finish, right? A lot of people come in and they say, hey, you've got to have a different machine to do this and a different machine to do that. And I think what you've built is a program that does it all in one box. And that's what we want to talk about today, right? Like, how do you build something like that? What does it look like, right? When you get the keys to this Ferrari and fire up that engine, right? Like, what does that sound like?
Yeah, no, great question. I noticed, and after getting out of that venture, I also invested in a mortgage venture. So I was in a non-Dell mortgage company, and my other partners, my partners today, once we started putting together a tech stack for the sales force, I ran an inside team and an outside team. And it was costing me anywhere between $800 to $1,000, per teammate, to, tech stack togetger a solution.
Yeah. That's right.
So it was a big challenge for us. And then getting them all to communicate together was another challenge. So some would, some wouldn't. So there was just
APIs, webhooks, right?
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
And then you get one right. Somebody changes something. You got to reconnect the whole darn thing again.
Exactly right. Something breaks. You got to figure out where it broke, right? It's like finding the end of spaghetti in a spaghetti bowl. Good luck.
There it is.
So, so we just realized that, coming out of that, the previous venture, and I also recognized talking to thousands of LOs that there just wasn't a really good sales driven system. And I come from a long sales background, close to 30 years. I've used multiple CRM systems, including Salesforce, for example. You have to be an engineer to operate, and figure out. And I've spent hundreds of hours of videos trying to figure that kind of stuff out, and just realized there was nothing that was really LO centric and LO easy for the salespeople, right? And at the end of the day, we have there's a plethora of sales people, and including LOs, and some are very tech savvy, some have zero tech knowledge, and then you have kind of everything in between. So there was nothing that really catered to that entire crowd that also incorporated a full tech stack up front. That's an LO's responsibility ultimately. That's when they're working the loan, right? Is that upfront process.
Well, there's so many pieces that go into origination, and you're right. By nature, most originators, you got to say most, because there's some out there that are super nerdy tech guys and get it all right and piece it all together, but most are not, right? And so when you throw this machine at them, it's got to be user friendly, and it also needs to encompass everything that we do on the day to day. And when you're building a machine, from the perspective of I've owned the mortgage company, I understand what the processes look like. I know where the pain points are for the people that are going to be using this thing. You can actually build it out to be, functional and feel like I like to talk about, when you've got the right CRM system, it's like the Apple of smartphones. And look, I've always been an Android guy, but I'm also a nerd, right? So at the end of the day, Apple is more user friendly for people. And there's a reason why they cater to those products. It is a simpler process. And to be quite frank with you, I have both now. And I will tell you, the Apple's also a whole heck of a lot of fun to use. And I think that's what you've done with mloflo is you've built the Apple of CRMs, right? That makes it very cohesive, easy to use, and it actually functions with the day-to-day workflows, right?
Absolutely. And I just ended up buying my mother that's close to 80 years old an iPhone, and she is fully capable of using it. And then we just bought her an iPad for her birthday. So yes, that is a great example. Because it's got to be able to cater to people like me, right? I'm a sales guy at the end of the day.
That's right.
I am generating business. My objective is to be out communicating, talking with prospects, talking with referral partners, out and about, networking, generating revenue, right? That is my sole objective, not sitting in front of a computer trying to learn technology all day to figure out systems, right?
We got to make that money.
Bills are paid by generating revenue.
Money making activity, right? We've got to be able to focus on money making activity, so we can't be working in a CRM. The CRM needs to work for us, right?
Yes, absolutely right. Yes.
So what all does this thing do, right? So at the end of the day, we start where? Does it what's the starting point? What's the finishing point, right? I mean, I think that's what people want to know is, can it do everything that I want to do in my business? And how does that, we can't show them how it looks today, right? If you want to know how it looks, reach out to Derrick and his team. They're going to give you a great demo and you'll be able to see all the bells and whistles. But, if you want to hear a little bit about what's inside the box, right? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Derrick, what's in the box, man? What's in the box?
Yeah. So the great thing of what's in the box is it's out of the box. So it is turnkey. That was one of the biggest challenges too, is, getting into technology. Can I just use it out of the box? Right. Yeah. Can I just turn things on and let it go? Yes, absolutely. That's what we've designed it to do. We understand the flow of a mortgage and a lead process, right? The mortgage loan process, the lead process, when a lead comes in, what happens through that entire flow. We know where the gaps are. We know where the challenges are. We know where leads fall out. And I think the biggest, the biggest thing that mloflo does is communication, right? So our motto is nurture relationships, build trust, and close more deals. That's what that's our core product is. Anyone that you come across, anybody that you touch, anyone that you engage with, we're going to communicate. We like to call it drip them till they're dead, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that anyone that you come in contact with, you're in constant communication. I think what we do differently versus a lot of other solutions is we also want to incorporate the human touch, right? Yeah. So the nurture part of this is very important in the mortgage world. And although you can automate a lot of things, especially with AI today.
Yeah.
Where do you want...
Is this even you, Derrick?
Right, exactly right. Because AI is building a lot of mistrust, right? Is it you? Is it not? And I tell you, when you make a phone call and you're talking about someone's children and that he's still playing soccer, you can't fake that. Right?
Nope.
That's and that's part of the solution is getting to that nurture part, right? And that personalization part to where it's not just a transaction, but you're personalizing your brand, who you are with that individual. So alongside of the communication, we also find specific ways and milestones to incorporate you, the human being, in that process. And we like to, for example, on our any potential borrower that you've closed out, you've closed a loan with, everything after that, we'd like to incorporate the 3X rule where you can communicate individually with that person 3 times a year on a personal level, above and beyond the automations that are also reaching out and communicating, with those individuals.
Well, let's talk a little bit about automations, right? I mean, I know what a lot of these things can do these days. So phone outreach, right? We've got a dialer system in this thing, I assume, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Text outreach, text capabilities?
Yes. Phone capabilities, text outreach, email, SMS, full-blown dialer, point of sale. So we take a full mortgage application. We have document reminders, requests, so we follow up. So let's talk
about that real quick. Let's cover that. So let's talk about what you're replacing with those programs, right? So Flowify,
yes,
mloflo, Blend, mloflo, right? Those are the 2 big boys. I'm sure there's others out there that other folks are using, but at the end of the day, yours is already doing those things. So that's a piece of tech that you can move off of because that's actually built in there. And now because the point of sale is your CRM, you don't have to link the 2 machines together. They're auto-linked. And so I'm assuming, is there some sort of a journey once that application is completed that the client goes on? Does it kind of follow any steps or any campaigning?
Absolutely. Yeah. So along that trail, so as the borrower completes that application, they then have a secure borrower portal that they land into. If they come from a referral partner like a realtor, realtor also has their own mortgage application links and QR codes that they can use. So very easy for them to send you leads by giving them their own mortgage application link, which the realtor is then tied to the lead. Then once that borrower completes the application, or let's say the borrower started the application, that's where the automation kicks in. So we want to, those are tasks, right, that can be automated, that you're not spending money for an assistant or yourself as ELO trying to backtrack, follow up with the client. Hey, you didn't finish your application. So that's the automation that we like to implement to help reduce those tasks, right? Those mundane tasks.
Yeah.
So we'll remind the client to go back in, complete the application day after day throughout that process. They go in. Oh, go ahead.
What email address is that using when it's doing the reminder? Is that coming from?
Own.
Oh, it's coming from the
It's
original.
their own email address. So we integrate with any email provider that you have.
And I point that out, Derrick, because, again, when you're working with programs like Flowify or like Blend, the email that comes out with the task reminders is from a third-party source. So a lot of times what happens is, even if the customer is familiar with the program, they may disregard those emails. But if Derrick's sending you an email, right, man, that's the person I'm communicating with. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to those. And in CRM systems, I've worked in the past where, I've built out my workflows for Flowify or Blend, and then, the workflow inside of the CRM. I'm actually building campaigns to remind the client, hey, Flowify sent you this. Make sure you look out for it. You don't have to do that anymore because the system is one and the same, and the email address that's doing that follow-up communication is coming directly from your personal email, your business email, right?
That's correct. And it also has your signature. So they do not know the difference. It's directly from your email. One-to-one emails come directly out of your server. The only emails that we use with a different server that still looks like yours, comes from your signature, is anything that you're doing like major email blasts, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 emails. Because we don't want to degrade your server, right?
Well, yeah, your IT department's gonna call you up real quick if you start sending mass blasts, because you might get shut down. So
I've been there. So,
well, it's funny you mentioned that. I had a situation with the CRM I built out, and one of my guys had dropped. I think it was like 1,000 people into a campaign, but we'd done it for like 10 different people. So it was like 10,000. And I get a call from my IT department. They're like, what did you do? And I'm like, oh my gosh. Luckily enough, we were able to stop the sequencing and in transition, because there was a marketing server opportunity in the background, but it did not catch that. So it put it out through the regular email. And yes, we got the 911 call. You almost blew. You blew us up in a bad way. This would have been really bad.
And it's not easy to fix. And that's why they get upset over it, because that is not an easy fix.
Yeah. So you're doing a mass marketing campaign all at once to thousands of people, which you could do with this thing. That's going to use a marketing server. It's still going to disguise or mask your name, right? As soon as you use something like a MailChimp or something like that, right, in the background, that's doing all that. But when it's the one-to-one communication, or I would assume even maybe the 100-to-1 communication, right, that's coming from my personal email address, and it's no different than the one they've already been communicating with me on.
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah. And then what about text campaigning? Does it do, that with your follow-up reminders and things like that, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So, text campaigns is vital with any communication, especially nowadays. 98% of text messages get seen versus 20 to 30% of emails. So we utilize heavy on the text messaging side of things, just because we know that communication is getting seen. Even if we have something important in an email that needs to be seen by a contact, we actually use text messaging to point them to the email, because we know that they're going to see the text message and they may miss it.
And then they'll go look at the email. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all makes sense. Now, is all this already pre-built, or, is there going to be a giant, process of me as the originator or the branch having to go in and program this thing out, or how does that look, right?
No, it's all programmed. It's all pre-built, pre-written. One thing we do suggest is, obviously with our success, we can get to in a little bit, but we have, coaches that train, but more importantly, we want you focused on generating revenue, right? And so we don't want you to go in and be building out the processes. We do that. We create an agenda, alongside you, and then go in and build it out for you. We start at a macro level and then start to go micro, the more detailed you want to learn about the system. But it is turnkey, ready to go. The only suggestions that we have is to look at the content. It is very good content, by the way. It's not fluff. It's not, something that was just pulled out of ChatGPT. It is conscious driven. It is call to action driven. It is built by loan officers. These are the same outbound reach campaigns that I would personally use, that I would personally write.
Yeah.
We spent hundreds of hours into these campaigns so that it wouldn't be flop. I've used other CRM
Yeah.
systems that the messaging didn't make sense. It just became spam. No, I've heard garbage marketing is better than no marketing.
Yeah.
Maybe to an
Nah.
extent, but great marketing is better than crap marketing any
Well,
day of the week.
and what I just heard you say was, look, if you just want to run in and drop this thing in and let it go and trust that Derrick and his team have put something great together, you can do that, right? But, we also know there's some technicians out there in this industry that say, no, I want the messaging to sound just like me. Well, great. If that's what you're looking for, you have the opportunity to go in and do that. But if you're just getting started and you don't want to or just don't have the time to, you could literally just turn this thing on. As you said, it's turnkey and, start that engine and let it start firing off. But we just touched on part of it. We're talking about the POS. This is the point of sale. This thing does a lot more because from my understanding, Derrick, your machine is point of sale, but then it also has process driven, right? So from like application through funding. And then there's also a back end element to it, where it's also able to connect and reach out to database for you as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So we have an entire flow from lead all the way to closing and post closing. Through that entire process, from application, we have a full pipeline view, so you can organize your pipeline, build out, customize your pipeline any way that you want, any way that you want to view it. Drag and drop around. It's very similar to Excel. So if any Excel lovers out there, it works. You can filter it right from there. It's not like you have to export and then filter. So you can filter message. So just highly flexible. And the way that we designed it is to be able to communicate with anyone that you want at any given time within minutes. So it's highly efficient when it comes to that communication, getting out. So for example, if you want to just reach out to your realtor partners, maybe a new program came out, that would take you under 2 minutes to do in our system. And you could be very specific to who you want to communicate with, in that process.
Yeah.
And then from the back end side of it, so what we've done is we've created the entire front end flow for the loan officers. So all the way up until contract. So you can take an application in the system, collect documents in our system. You can run a loan quote in our system. You can pull credit in our system. You can run AUS in our system. So you can fully pre-approve a file up front. Then when they go to pre-approval, it goes into processing. It then goes into a loan, flips to the other side of our platform. We have a full conditions tab. So if processors want to utilize our system for conditions, they can, or we integrate directly with your LOS so that as the processor is updating files, it pushes to our system and we handle all the communication with all the parties on that loan.
So what I'm hearing, Derrick, is if I'm an originator, I could stay out of my origination software and I can use MLoflo. And I think I'm getting a trend on where the name came from, mortgage loan flow. I don't know if I'm right on that, but it sounds like that's what it is. MLoflo is true, mortgage loan flow, right? From start to finish. If I'm an originator, I can be, one place and not 10 places and do everything that I need to do. And that's huge, right? Because at the end of the day, we've heard this before, but a lot of the times we get in there like, well, it's still missing this and it's still missing that. And I've seen the demo. I've seen what yours does. And it truly does. It fits, it fits into all the boxes. And then you're shaving off costs too, right? Because if you're a branch manager, and you start listening to the stuff that Derrick's talking about here, man, that cuts that bill, that cuts that bill, that cuts that bill. Now all of a sudden your P&L just got way leaner, and your process for your team is just, super streamlined. Now, let me ask this on a higher level. So I am a branch manager and I have a workflow that's really important to me. I like the fact and respect that you have one. Can I modify this thing at all to work, some of the systematic ways that my team does business?
Absolutely. So we have created, team environments have changed, right? Especially in the mortgage industry. You see very high producers, for example, you might have one LO with 5 or 6 LOAs, and that's very common nowadays. Or everybody has a different system and responsibility throughout the loan or lead process. So
That's right.
We have flexibility into our system as to responsibilities per teammate in our system. So, you have an LOA for an example, that can do anything that a loan officer can do, right? Up
Right.
until
Yeah.
specific things that a licensed
Yeah.
LO can only do.
Supporting loan terms, right? Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. But to be able to manage, operate for the LO, see into their pipeline, send out emails as the LO, they can literally manage that LO's pipeline from a team environment. So we are highly flexible, highly customizable around those teams, and we do very, very well around those team environments.
Yeah. Well, I know we can talk about this thing all day, and we probably should, because there's people out there that want to hear it. And if you do want to hear more, you got to come to Derrick and his team, and we're going to give you some insight on how to find it. But I think there's a big question that's going to come up in anybody's mind who's transitioned to LO CRMs or that's tried to transition to a CRM, right? And you touched on it earlier, but I want to hit it. And this is the hard question, right? I've heard this before. I've heard that it's simple and it's out of the box and it's easy, but then I get in there and I try to put it together and there's no support. There's no functionality that I can figure out on my own. And I just eventually abort mission and scrap the whole process and I don't use this thing, right? Talked about that, right? How do we debunk that theory? Because we hear it all the time, Derrick.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right about that, Devin. And so that's why we created one-on-one support. And that's probably one of our biggest differentiators. And not just one-on-one support, but it's one-on-one support with, that one coach, because it's imperative for us to understand your business model versus someone else's, right? Because everybody, in the mortgage business, everybody does similar things, right? An application has the same process flow when it comes to taking an application, pulling credit, right? That's pretty standard. But what's important to you and what's driving you is very different from one LO to another, right? So I may come across an LO that is generating leads from Facebook, and I have another one that's looking to grow their business with realtor referrals. So their vision and goal is very different. So we have to customize, and tailor the system to what's important to them.
Yeah.
So when they come on board, they start immediately with an onboarding, with a one-on-one onboarding. And then from there, our team sits with them and they create an agenda together for the next 5 to 6 one-on-one meetings. And by the way, they have a lifetime coach with us. So above and beyond, those 5 to 6 meetings, anytime that they want to jump in a Zoom call, they can call, text.
That's great.
They have their direct contact information. And then they create an agenda together, and then they work on that agenda together to put the CRM together. And I think, it's a great point, Devin, because I think the biggest challenge that people have, and they CRM jump. And the reason they CRM jump, and I hear this all the time, it's like, oh, what's the best CRM? It's the one you use.
That's right.
Well, of course, right? You have to use it for it to even work. But a good CRM should be getting you a return on your investment. It shouldn't cost you anything at the end of the day. And if we're not getting you a return on investment, then we're doing something wrong. And that's how we're taught. That's why my team is taught. And that's why we try to bring value as quickly as possible to understand what's most important and how can we generate revenue to get you a return on this particular software investment, right? Yeah. And I think the largest challenge that most loan officers have is when they get into a CRM is, where do I start? Where do I begin? And what's most important to me? So the questions that we ask, we can dig that up pretty quickly and figure that out pretty quickly. And because we do this, 100 times a week. So the experience that we're giving these LOs, they don't do this every day, and nor did they expect to be, an expert in CRMs, right? And some of them, like I said, some are very tech savvy, so some of them do have that background. But I'll tell you, the 80% rule, 80% of LOs do not have that tech savviness or the experience in CRMs to build.
Nor is it a good use of their time, Derrick. Like we talked about before, they want to focus on sales as they should. That's where their revenue comes from, right? So exactly right. Having a good success partner, right, to help you get this thing off the ground is important. And it sounds like that's what your team does, right? You guys provide them. You call it a coach. My podcast is Loan Officer Success Partner, so I like to use the term success partner, right? Yes. But at the end of the day, you're providing them a client success partner, right? Somebody that's going to be there to make sure that this thing implements, it sticks, all the stuff that they want it to do will happen, and they're not stuck beating their head up against the wall. Because I can tell you, I'm at several different coaching platforms, and I'll go to some of these meetings, and they're all beating their heads against the wall, and going, man, this is just so hard, man. I don't even know which one to go with. And then they have confusion. And you know what they revert to? an Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They go back to the Excel. It was easier, right? One sheet, I can see it.
I
Doesn't
know
do
how this
anything,
works.
but and you know the funny is we used Success Partner originally, and
Yeah.
we've gone more towards the coaching. I'll tell you why, because
Yeah.
it reminds me of sports. I grew up playing
Yeah.
sports, and
Yep.
you know when you went to the field, right? When you went to practice, and that you never went as a player, and the coach never said, "Okay, what are we doing today, team?"
Yeah.
Right? Everything was already built out,
That's
ready to
right.
go. You
Yeah.
knew exactly what they knew exactly what they were going to coach on and why. And then they implemented it for game day, right?
That's
And
it.
that's what we do is we get you prepared for game day.
I love
Right.
it.
And we have what's called blueprints. Our blueprints are built out. So above and beyond the automation, Devin,
Yeah.
we have what's called our success blueprints. Our blueprints tell you exactly when to reach out, when the automations go off, you know, when to make phone calls. The entire blueprint is ready for you so that all you have to do is follow the blueprint. And
That's
if
it.
you do it, you're going to be successful.
Well, that goes back to the coaching, right? You know, you're calling it blueprints, but now maybe we should call it the playbook, right? Because that's
Yeah.
exactly what it
Yeah.
is. It's your loan officer playbook on how to use this thing to create great successes. Well, Derrick, again, I know we could probably talk for another 3 hours because this is
No,
a
I
topic
can't.
I love too. I can't keep you here all day, brother. You know, what did we not cover today that we should have?
Yeah, you know, look, whether it is, you know, mloflo or any other CRM that you're working in, you know, the advice I would give is to really pull back, figure out what you want to accomplish and what you want your system to provide you, and then create a playbook, right?
Yeah.
Blueprint, whatever you want to call it, create a plan around it, and then start there, right? Start somewhere, but think of your technology as a puzzle, right? And each puzzle piece has a important part of the overall picture.
That's right.
So take it piece by piece, find out where your struggles are, where your challenges are, create a solution around that, get that well oiled, right? Create a well oiled machine around that particular solution before you move on to the next. And if that's any advice I can give around technology, it's probably the biggest thing that I see. The biggest challenge is people don't know where to begin,
Yeah.
or they just try to blanket everything at one time and nothing. They become a master of nothing.
Yeah,
Right?
that's it. Well, I'll tell you what, if they need to know where to begin, it's right here with Derrick Doss and mloflo. Great system, great piece of tech. You know, at the end of the day, it's really going to help you move the needle in your business. And if you're already a successful originator, you know, it's just going to make you more successful. And I mean that with all, you know, due diligence, because I've worked with great CRM systems and I've seen what Derrick's does. And, you know, when these CRM systems go to work for you, they literally go to work for you. So, you know, they help with a little bit more outreach that just allows you to grab that extra loan that maybe you wouldn't have had time to track down on your own, right? Stay in front of your past customer database. So at the end of the day, those customers know that you're out there, right? Touching base with your pre-approved and lookings, right? And making sure that they know that you're there, even when you don't have time to pick up that phone. And then you just walk into text messages, people on your calendar, and you have business opportunities. It doesn't mean you change what you're doing. You got to keep doing what you're doing because that's how you build that success. But the right CRM just spirals you to that next level. So, you know, Derrick, when the folks out there want to find you and your team, you know, we know it's mloflo. We know they don't have to come down to Fort Lauderdale. They might want to. They don't have to come down there to find you. But how do they find you, brother?
Yeah, very easy. And I couldn't have said that better myself, Devin. So mloflo, mloflo.com. Easiest way to find us.
Boom, there it is, and it's probably just right down there somewhere. And if you're listening, you're like, "What the heck is he talking about?" Just go check out the description. We dropped the link in there for you guys to find mloflo. It's pretty easy, mloflo.com. But you know, again, just go click on the link, take you straight there. Check out this thing. Jump on a call with their team. They'll show you how it works, and I think you'll be glad you did. You know, if you're struggling in your business today and don't have the right CRM or don't have a CRM at all, and you're afraid to get started, this is a great place to start. So, man, good stuff. Well, Derrick, brother, I truly appreciate you jumping on today. I know you're a productive guy, and pull you away from that schedule. I appreciate you taking the time. I bet you there's a lot of people out here that are thanking you for taking that time, because we know there's LOs out there that are struggling, that don't know where to turn, and now you do. right?
Yeah,
Andy,
and Devin, I really appreciate this, and I appreciate what you're doing for the community. I know you and I talked about giving value,
yeah,
out there and supporting LOs. This is entrepreneurship, and it's a tough
that's
business
it.
out there, right? So any way that we can support each other and help each other grow, we all win.
We're better together,
That's
we're
it.
better together. It's a big industry, and if we can empower each other, that just helps us all take it to that next level, man. So
Yes,
great
sir.
stuff. Great stuff. Well, again, Derrick, great having you here today. And hey, we appreciate you guys stopping by. This is the Loan Officer Success Partner. I'm Devin Dubuque. And hey, if you want to check us out, come on over to Homes Begin Here Network. That's on YouTube, Spotify. Spotify's Loan Officer Success. Homes Begin Here is on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And it's our entire network. We've got podcasts for real estate agents. We've got podcasts for loan officers. Anybody that's looking to find success in their business, that's what Homes Begin Here is all about. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you want to be on the show, if you got something you want to talk about, hey, we'd love to hear it. And if you happen to be a client that stumbled in here and you want great support on a mortgage transaction, hey, click below, comment. We'd love to help you. So until the next time, we'll see you then.